Hi, I'm an art and photography teacher, and recently I've started teaching graphic design, and I actually trained as a design technology teacher. At the Sixth Form College, we get students from all over the county, who obviously a lot of them don't know each other, although you do get cliques that do know each other. My biggest problem in my classroom is actually getting students to talk to each other. Students who know each other will talk to each other, but students who don't have past knowledge of each other don't tend to open up, especially when you end up with quite a wide age range. So any of my students can range from the age of 16 all the way up to 21. They come from all cultural backgrounds, all ethnic backgrounds, all social backgrounds. So I've started using various online tools to try and get them talking. This year, one of my groups I was banging my head against the wall with, they would not talk. I got them sitting around tables, we were doing peer assessment, we were just chatting, but they just would not talk to each other to evaluate or be critical about each other's work. So I put a few short forum tasks on, where it was like guessing games almost. What is this? I found a poster of 100 YouTube videos that were just like little infographics, and I didn't tell them what it was, and they just had to guess what it was. So they couldn't fail, it didn't matter if they got it wrong, and slowly they started to build a rapport through little forum exercises. The one on the board was one where they actually started to critique each other's work. One of our graphic design tasks was to redesign our Moodle, which now the techie's trying to put in place, but to make it more navigable for the students, but also make it more appealing. So they were critiquing each other's just use of logos. And I've also used Lino with them. This is one of their later ones, where they're critiquing somebody else's work. This is actually a website for a company called Do Digital, which is actually Zoe Ross's company that Pete was talking about earlier. I didn't tell her I was doing this. I screen grabbed her website and got the students to critique it, because I'd actually been doing some design work for her. So the students were critiquing my own work. So if we just have a scroll around the Lino, all the post-its on it, by the way, are what the students have just added to this page. We also looked at her blog for sort of brand consistency, and then we looked at some of her flyers. So they were all doing brand analysis, but I didn't ask them to put their names to their post-it notes, and there's all different abilities. But it was this chance to actually look at their critical analysis of something that was out there and it wasn't their work, and then start dissecting some of the pointers. Also, what's beautiful with this is 20 students in a classroom can all log onto a computer and stick post-it notes all over it, all at the same time, and then they start appearing. They get all excited, even 21-year-olds. But then to take this a step further, last year I dabbled a bit with Google Docs, which is part of the app suite, or you can have it independently, just with students that were poor attenders because of health, because it allowed me to have a conversation with the student on the document and me to keep up to date with their progress constantly. This year, I asked if I could actually have Google Apps to trial. So I've been trialling it with 200 students, which is quite a few, really. And this year, they've started to produce all of their work online through a Google Doc. So this is just one lad's work. But what's beautiful on this is it remembers changes, it tracks changes, and Josh could share his work with Tim in the class. And earlier on this year, we did. So Josh opened up his work and let Tim critique it. And because of all of the tasks we'd done earlier in the year through using different online tools, they actually had a relationship, so they could critique each other's work, and they could offer pointers on what was working, what wasn't working, any important information that was missing. But because the changes are trackable for coursework, you can see who's made what changes. So there's no plagiarism, there's no involvement that if, I don't know, Josh convinced him to do his work for him, I can see. I can also see when Josh last worked on this document. It gives the students a certain amount of ownership because they choose who can access their work, but it also gives them a certain amount of responsibility because they know that now I'm watching them. They can't lose it on a pen drive, which is another great thing. But this collaboration and sharing. Also, what Pete was on about earlier on with this little, ooh, let's not go there, with this little window at the top, Google Docs has a chat function. So two students on either side of the classroom can actually have a conversation if they're both on the same document. And some teachers are horrified by this. Two students can talk, but they can. And it's the same as Facebook chat almost. It just pops up on the side and they could be talking about all sorts of nonsense. But then I pop onto their documents and look at them and start thinking, actually, they're talking about the work. So it's a great tool just for this collaboration and also getting students to talk to each other. What we started doing is taking it a little step further with my photography students, and because they're far more visual, they have a tendency to go a bit all over the place. So we're trying to digitally bring together a hell of a lot of different media. So we'll have YouTube videos, we'll have prints, we'll have photographs. So what they've started doing is creating Google Sites, which is part of the Google Apps Suite, or anyone with a Gmail account can make a Google site. So this is Chris's A-level photography, and he's embedded his main presentation, which is the main development and explanation of his work. But then he's also embedded his 3D photography images. And I just wish I had some 3D glasses, because you can actually really just engage with the picture straight away because you don't have to hunt for it. So he's already identified his best work. And then also he's done a whole series of stop frame animations because he was doing light painting using iPods and iPads. So all of his stop frame animations, and he's also been filming bouncing liquids on speakers. So he's just embedded all of his YouTube videos straight away. And I could do that on a PowerPoint page, but then when he shows his mum a PowerPoint, it's not the most exciting thing. Whereas when he got really excited because he went home, he actually showed his mum his work and said, look, I've got a website, come and have a look at my work. Which for a 17-year-old boy, I think is quite a miracle. So that's about it. Next year I'm going to look at more of the collaborative tools. Also, we've started actually using the teacher accounts to use chat functions, and you can have a pop-up chat box in your email. So you can actually have video conversations with people who are on two different campuses or two different sites. So it's quite an exciting way forward. So yeah, there we go.
Thank you, Helen.